sleep affects the health of our body and our mental health.
Yeah. Did you want to say something? Okay.
Well, I know we're going to get here, but I got to circle back to you because we talked about what mental health means to us, but what does mental health mean to you?
You're absolutely right. Thank you for putting me on the spot. Holding me accountable. That's a part of mental health.
That's what co-hosts are for.
Thank you, girl. Yeah, so, I did mention that I am a mental health advocate and I have lived experience. We all have mental health, right? So we all have to make sure we are taking care of ourselves. So to me, mental health means figuring out how to be well, right? To the capacity that you can. It doesn't look like what the media displays is like these luxurious, like self-care, going on vacation, and all that's cool if you can afford it. But it could just be simple things as just going outside and getting some air, going to bed. I'm a strong believer in naps. If you follow the nap ministry, rest is revolutionary. Okay.
Amen.
So especially as women of color, especially with heart disease and problems happening, we got to take care of ourselves. So that's what mental health means to me. It just means like figuring out how to be well,
Wow.
And I was going to say, to bring that all together, like a lot of people, when they think about physical health and what organ can really shut down the rest of your body, a lot of people think about just the heart. Like your brain is that's the second biggest organ, and if it shuts down, the rest of your body's done.
Right.
It's absolutely done. And I don't think people think about mental health in that way, and make that connection medically in physical health and emotional health. It all goes together. You know what I mean?
Wow. One of the things that I thought was interesting, and you mentioned sleep, and not to go from one extreme to another, but as I mentioned, my godmom, she has her own practice as well, and I asked her, like, I call it the leather couch, like, wise people come into the leather couch, right? And she was like, surprisingly, most of the time when people come to the leather couch, it's due to relationships and work. And when Kara mentioned sleep, I got a suicide call. So I had to pull up in the middle of COVID for a suicide call. And I asked this young lady, like, basically, what's good? She was like, it's this little boy. And I was like, girl, you about to have this moment? Oh, I'm not sleeping at night because, he's with these other people. And I was like, I wanted to, but I didn't, right? And I asked her, I said, let me tell you something. There was a time in my life where I literally was not sleeping and I would cry myself to sleep because of a guy. Until the one day I was like, I'm not sleeping. He was like, I slept good last night. I was like, oh, almost fell out my chair. And I ain't never shed a tear since. But I just had to really rock with her like that. Like, you're over here crying, losing sleep. You got me out here in the middle of COVID-19 on a suicide call over that's sleeping good every night, and you're not. So sleep is ministry, and ministry is sleep. So I just thought that was a real live depiction of what happens in people's life that brings them to the leather couch.
Well, I have, in my experience, I also figured out that a lot of people, when they're going through breakups, they're not only just mourning that loss of that person and that relationship, they're also having this balance with guilt of feeling like I shouldn't feel this way, right? And so I tell people, you actually should feel those feelings. Go ahead and cry. Right. Let that all out and don't feel guilty about it because you are mourning. Right. And I think we need to talk about grief as it's like grief can be anything. It doesn't have to be a loss of a loved one. Right. They don't have to be put in the ground. Like, I tell people all the time, I went through a divorce. I grieved that divorce for 2 years. You know what I mean? You can grieve a loss of routine. A lot of people are grieving loss of finances. So grief comes in many forms. So.
I also want to talk about this. I think we're going to get here too, but I also want to talk about just the value of self that we put into relationships, right? So if you are who I am, then when you leave, who am I? Like, who am I without you?
Oh,
or
I think I need a seatbelt.
Say that again.
Who am I? Listen, she's my bestie for a reason. I can't. I mean, trying not to laugh at her, trying to be serious, okay? But no.
She's a high person. It's all good.
She's not. Right. So, see, she throws me off too,
You
y'all.
said, if you are who I am.
Right, and you left, who am I? And you left, who am I? And so sometimes when we get to the place of suicide and we get to the place like, I'm just about to take myself out, it's not because of this little boy. It's because I don't know who I am. I have absolutely no identity except for who you are with me.
Okay, preacher.
You know, so now we have to get to a place, and I really believe that mental health has a lot to do with first knowing who you are. Yeah, because everything else spins out of that. Everything else that you do spins out of that.
Can I add on to that?
Come on, Miss Jessica.
Message. Y'all hear the messages? Y'all collecting them? Go ahead.
We're coming for your edges.
So the other thing is how we're raised. We are raised like we have to put so much into a relationship to get back what we want. When we are alone or worthy of love and all those things, so in a relationship, you shouldn't go into it and say, I'm going to put all these things so I can get that love back. You know what I mean? That your worth and what you should get back should not be bartered at all. You know what I mean? Be who you are. Your energy is value, right? Who you are is value. For that person to be in your presence is value. That's the thing that's worth something. You know what I mean? You shouldn't. And that's the other thing, because I meet with couples and they're like doing tit for tat. Well, I always do this for them. I said, well, what are you doing it for? You know what I mean? I understand, like, if it's chores and stuff like that, I understand, right? But I'm giving this gift, well, are you giving it out the kindness of your heart? Or do you have some expectation around that, right? So we gotta really get down to the meat.
That is
a lot of times.
I'm so sorry. Y'all, me and Jessica about to be.
No, go ahead. It's all good.
This stuff doesn't we have to stop. But I'm I'm the host of a Valentine's surprise challenge right now. And we all know 9 times out of 10, the man is the one who's supposed to do it, right? So in this Valentine's surprise, I have the wives doing all these things for the men. And I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Let me tell you why, because we're gonna talk about Valentine's Day later, and you can't steal our thunder. So hold out that. I'm gonna take a mental note, and we're gonna talk about the Valentine's Day challenge and what wives are doing for their husbands, and we're gonna go back to that.
It sounds really fun.
I mean, I got you.
Y'all left me on the
No, stay tuned.
Right on the edge of your
Stay
seat.
tuned.
We're coming back to it.
This was about to be good.
We're coming back to it. No, I just want to touch on all of the gems that happen. Like you talked about grief. You also talked about accountability in like relationships. And you spoke on, yourself. If you have problems and somebody's blocking out your life and you're invested so much in them, is your mental health tied up in who they are? You don't know who you are. So those are all really key, important things that I hope that you're taking notes, y'all. Are you taking notes?
Right. I have a question though
Sure,
for these ladies, because talking about relationships are real, right? So, and y'all can put in the chat if this ever happened to you, or you could just look at your neighbor and act like it didn't, right? But how many of you ladies, or even the people that are in the background, have been in a relationship and you lose yourself and then you move on from that relationship and you gotta like date yourself and then you gotta learn who you are and you're just like, who am I? Right? And then you get into relationships and then there comes a level of codependency, right? So I had to get to a point, because I am that woman that's like, oh, I'm good, period. But I had to understand that there's a lot of people, I'm not going to just talk about women, that their identity is unfortunately tied to somebody else, like Kara was saying. So what tips do you have? And I feel bad because in coaching sessions, I have a lot of people that's like, yo, I'm just waiting for my bae and then I'm good. Or I hear people say, this is my other half, pause. I don't need you to be my other half, pause. I don't need you to be my better half, right? I don't need 1 + 1 is 2, but one whole person times another whole person equals a whole relationship, right? So let's talk about the people that their wholeness is contingent upon another person. What does that look like?
And I also just want to add, like, it doesn't have to just be in couples either, because, people are codependent on friends,
Yes.
family members.
Yes.
sometimes that fear of abandonment comes from family, at birth, or not at birth, but like moms, dads, toxic relationships. So it's not just couples. So I think that you touched on something.
Relationships in general, business partnerships. I got a couple people that's toxic business relationships away, but I'm just saying some people have these codependent toxic relationships in general. So what does that look like? Let's just open that up. What can we do to make sure that we are a whole person and not waiting to be whole based upon somebody else?
I think once you get to the point and realize that happiness is inside of you, is nothing external that's going to give you true happiness. At the end of the day, happiness is who you are when you're by yourself. And everybody knows who they are when they're by themselves. Right. And so until you get to the point where you can look in the mirror and say, I like me, I genuinely like me, I can laugh with me, then you really haven't got there yet. And it takes a while, right? We all have to, and then I don't want to say like you get to that point and it's over. No, you gotta be a continuous learner. Life is still gonna throw you rocks and you might have to dodge a little bit. And it's okay, but you get through them much easier now that you like yourself. You don't have to go anywhere outside of yourself to find happiness. So, and it don't cost a thing. I tell people all the time, because I just had this friend about, this conversation with a friend, he smokes, and that's fine. I said, okay. But I said, that costs. Let's work on that happiness in the inside, you know what I mean? So you don't have to go anywhere to seek it.
That's good.
So I just have to I had to come to a place for me, I had to come to a place in Christ. I had to recognize that God alone sustains me. I had to recognize that there was nobody else to go to except the Father, because the Father is the one who created me. I had a really good mentor tell me one time, if you have a piano and it breaks, you're not going to try to fix the piano by yourself. You're going to go to the person who wrote the book about the piano. And then you're going to fix the piano according to the creator's words, right? So, for me, I had to go to God and I had to say, God, you created me. I don't like my nose. I don't like my teeth. I don't like the way I look. I had to come to God, and God had to tell me, and I know that sometimes we get sick of using the Bible, and sometimes we get sick of using these things, but God had to tell me, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I have counted every single hair on your head. Like, God had to tell me these things, and then once he began to tell me these things, I began to believe these things. So nobody can call me ugly right now, because I'm fine, okay? And the reason why I'm fine is because the God who created the heavens and the earth created me, right? So that's how I found my identity. I found my identity in the Word of God, and I found my identity in quiet time with Him, and I found my identity crying to Him, and I found my identity journaling to Him. This is how I found my identity. And I feel sorry when I come to people and I say, I can't give you anything else but Jesus. Like, there's nothing else I can give you. I might not get licensed as a therapist, because if they try to tell me not to say Jesus, we're going to have a problem. Because that's the sole hope of
Actually, religion and therapy actually boosts the outcomes, positive outcomes. Yeah. So I tell people all the time, like, therapy and religion, it goes together. It's actually good together. Yeah. It's okay to go to both. Like, I'm all for it. And I'm a Christian therapist. Like, girl.
Listen.
Right.
You need to just drop the mic. You just laid down.
I needed a seatbelt and a tambourine. Like,
I just work over here.
Right. It's the code.
Yo, we're gonna get some installed over here. But here's the thing though, like, because we just preached and had therapy just in these few moments, but what a lot of people may not realize, when you do need to get to that level of therapy, you can reach out to your medical provider and you can ask for specifics. You can ask for gender, you can ask for race, you
Yes.
can ask for religion. So I'm gonna be up in there like, I need a Black Christian female therapist
Right.
because we got some work to do. But I mean, if you need some, we got a couple right here that you're looking at. So these are things that are amazing, but you can be